Thank you, Dr. Craig. And now, Dr. Williamson, please give your closing comment.
Well, as it happens, I haven't seen Dr. Craig's debates against Muslims, so he's got me on a lot. How about Vishnu? Now, for this burden of proof in the problem of evil, apparently I have to prove that God created a world in which there would be more knowledge of God and less evil. I got to admit, that's going to be tough to do, so maybe I'm going to take a roundabout way at that. Dr. Craig suggested that God has other objectives than making us feel good in creating this world, and one of them is to know God. So how does this work? How does things happen in the course of knowing God? Well, first off, God shows up, writes a complicated, confusing book full of inconsistencies, and then he disappears. Knowledge of God? Well, if God would show his face once in a while, then there would be so much more knowledge of God in this cosmos that it would just be fantastic. I would even maybe find it. So the idea that God has alternative motives that explain why the evil is here, well, once again, we need those motives. The whole problem of evil is exactly that we lack those reasons. Now, for the philosophical argument, I believe Dr. Craig was referring to the idea that an actual infinite is not a possibility. And he does this by pointing out that there's paradoxes involved in the idea of infinity. Well, you know, I think that the best that argument proves is that the mathematics of infinity is pretty confusing. It's fraught with paradoxes. What's not proven is whether or not this has any effect on the real the real properties of objects in this infinite series. And the fact that you can give an example of this using hotel rooms or using a library full of books should suggest to us immediately that the properties of these things are not at issue in this. Well, the only thing that is at issue is whether or not infinity is fraught with paradoxes, and everybody agrees to that. Not proven is whether or not there is any effect on making real properties contradictory as a result of that account. Now, the degree of fine-tuning, this probability thing, now, I'm still working on this one because as far as I can see, an incomprehensible property still just says, an incomprehensible probability still just says that we're having trouble appreciating it. It doesn't say anything about whether or not that is going to happen. And I think if you take a look around the universe, okay, how fine-tuned does this place look to you? If it's fine-tuned to produce intelligent life, got lots of it, don't we, on Earth? How about the rest of the cosmos? Where exactly is it out there? So I'd have to suggest to you that the universe actually looks exactly as it would if it happened by extreme long odds chance. We got it one place, but it seems to be, as far as anyone can detect, nowhere else. Now back to this objective morality, needing an explanatory foundation. I want to put my cards on the table, because here, it seems to me that the fact that we all share a common physiology, we all share the same pains and suffering, should it be more likely to give us a grounds for saying that certain things are wrong because they cause us pain, far better than God could possibly do. Now, if I were to bring in a chainsaw and offer to cut off any person's leg with this chainsaw, I trust nobody would be taking this. Now, why do you suppose that is? Is it because it's merely a subjective thing that we object to pain? No. It's perfectly objective because it's based in our physiology. And that seems to me a far more immediate way of assessing the objectivity of right and wrong than to reference God. And think about this. You'd have to prove God exists. I guess Dr. Craig did that, so, okay. You'd have to know which God you're talking about. Did we get Allah, or did we get God, or get Jehovah, whatever. We'd also have to know what revelation was the correct one. And we'd also have to know what interpretation of the revelation was correct. So if you have to go through all of that, rather than simply look at what causes harm, well, How is it easier to figure out what is right and wrong? Well, I'm going to go for harm any day. I don't much like reading the Bible anyhow. Now, here's another reason to think that we should have objective morals, or at least have some agreement on them. Take a look at a society. Try and imagine an existing society, one that's stable and durable for any length of time, where they have no rules against murdering children. How long is that society going to last? Not a generation. How about, would anyone want to live in a society where there's no rule against murder? Anyone can walk up to you and gun you down. Well, I'm not going to even be part of that society. That's not going to function at all. How about a society in which there's no prohibition against lying? Well, cooperation kind of depends on being able to trust each other, and if everybody's going to lie at will, then we're not going to be able to get along. So the simple fact that we have durable, stable societies suggests that there are some values that constitute these societies, and they're grounded in the simple fact that these societies exist. Nothing more need be said there. Now, for my last 15 seconds, I'd simply like to appeal to you. She wrote a stop on it because I went too far last time. Okay.